Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Will. In this video, we're going to go over a little bit about SIBO and its connection to IBS. I want to make it really simple for you guys, so it's not too complicated. I know there's a lot out there, but I want to make it really simple so you guys can go out and actually improve your health instead of getting too overwhelmed and then just not doing anything. If you guys don't know who I am, again, I mentioned my name is Will, Will's Health, of course. But I'm going to throw up some pictures now, just to kind of show you my before and after. I know I struggled with IBS for many years. I had to do a lot of experimentation with diet and all sorts. And there's many different factors that have a play as well, not just diet. But many years of experimentation and watching videos and books and going to doctors and stuff, and not really getting much help. And it took me ages to figure out what was going on with IBS and finally get to a place where I can say I don't really experience IBS symptoms anymore. And I also want that for you as well. So I'm making these videos to just break it down really simply, not using too many fancy jargon or scientific words, just making it really easy so we can understand it and actually take action. But yeah, I struggled with IBS for many years. I had bloating and digestive issues and diarrhea and for many years. And now I can say that I don't get any of that. I don't get brain fog, I don't get nutrient deficiencies, in a much healthier place. And it is possible. I know a lot of people think that IBS is just with them forever, but don't ever accept that as a reality. You need to actually believe you can heal IBS, and then look into how you can do it with me, and then we can improve you. All right, cool. So when it comes to SIBO, a lot of people who have IBS actually have something called SIBO. Again, I don't think SIBO is a root cause. I think the root cause is, again, the pillars that I mentioned in my previous video. If you haven't gone and watched that, please do. It kind of explains and breaks down all the major pillars that you need to look after: the gut lining, gut bacteria, emotional and mental health, hydration, diet, all the major pillars. And I break them down in my first video. So if you want to go over that, that might help you a little bit. But we're going to go straight into SIBO, which, again, a lot of information around, but let's just break it down really simply. SIBO stands for short intestinal bacterial overgrowth, right? And your gut bacteria and your gut microbiome should be, or most of it should be, in the large intestine, in the colon. And when it overgrows, no matter what bacteria, when it overgrows in the short intestine, that can create problems like IBS-related symptoms, bloating, gas, diarrhea, all that fun stuff, all right? And again, kind of mimic IBS. Again, IBS is kind of a blanket statement term anyway for just bad gut health. And what I'm doing here is just kind of break it down and understand why you're getting this in the first place. Again, it always goes back to the main pillars that I speak about. But yeah. So how do you know if you actually have SIBO? Well, I don't think it's absolutely necessary you get a test. As I mentioned, you're still going to be doing the same pillars anyway. But you could do a breath test, which could detect, certain gases that this bacterial overgrowth might be producing, and that will give an indication if you have SIBO and what type of SIBO as well that you have. You can have a constipation dominant one or a diarrhea dominant one. Do I think it's necessary? As I said, no. But it can give you some clarity if you want it, and might help where you start with your gut health journey, depending on where you're at. Also, you might also feel worse on high fiber. You might feel worse on probiotics or certain strains. Again, fiber can feed the bacteria, which can be good for most people if you have good bacteria. But again, if you're having that overgrowth, it can feed the overgrowth and make you feel worse. And certain strains of bacteria can make you feel worse. Again, it kind of just keeps promoting the bacterial overgrowth in your short intestine, especially these two strains as well, which are commonly in, like kefir has a lot of lacto-based strains. So like if you feel worse on kefir, for example, it can take anyone a little while to adjust to fermented food if you have loads of it, but if you definitely feel worse, bloating, gas, and discomfort, then you might suspect SIBO. And that's fine. We can work through that. But that can just give an indication, and you might want to hold off on doing, like, I know a lot of people say, take probiotics or fermented food, which is great, but you might want to hold off on that and address other areas first before you do that. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the ileocecal valve, which is the valve which connects your large intestine, your colon, and your short intestine. Now, the role of this ileocecal valve, or one of its roles, is to prevent this bacteria. Now, as we mentioned before, the bacteria should be in the large intestine, the colon, which is where microbiome should be. And this valve kind of prevents that bacteria from going back into the short intestine. So our body literally has a valve designed to prevent SIBO. So we can now think, oh, well, this valve isn't working then if I have SIBO, which would make sense, right? But your body is very smart, okay? And it has different things in place to prevent these things from happening. And if this valve isn't working properly, well, then any bacteria is going to go back into the short intestine, which shouldn't be happening. So now we have to address, well, why is this ileocecal valve not working in the first place? Well, there could be many things. In terms of SIBO as a whole, I think the main root causes are low motility, stomach acid, as in too little. Most people think they have too much. It's not true. They have too little. And bile production. Now, bile is produced by the liver, helps to break down fats. It's also antimicrobial for the short intestine. So if you're getting enough bile, that should also prevent any of the overgrowth, because it's antimicrobial in the short intestine. Hopefully this is making sense. I'm assuming it's making sense. You guys can't tell me if it's making sense, so I'm just assuming it can. But you guys can let me know in the comments. So those three main things. Again, I mentioned these three things in my previous video. I said that low stomach acid, motility, and bile are really big things. And a lot of people would say in that video, oh yeah, you talk about IBS, but what if it's actually SIBO? Again, the main pillars would address SIBO as well. It would address things like gastritis as well. So it's not just IBS, it's looking at your gut health as a whole. That's what the major pillars is about. So if you have sluggish bile produced by your liver, which again, you probably should be doing some liver stuff down the line, because a lot of our livers are under attack from all the chemicals it has to go through, but that's another story. So making sure your liver's in a good place, again, just doing basic stuff. You could try maybe milk thistle, different herbs. I might do another video on that, but yeah, making sure your stomach acid is good. Of course, making your gut lining, make sure your gut lining is good before you do that. But I think the main thing is motility, because as we can see here, if you have motility, that can then affect stomach acid, that can then affect enzyme production, and then causing SIBO, inflammation, and bad nutrient absorption. So I think the major thing you need to be looking at is motility. And how does this affect this ileocecal valve? Well, it can create pressure. Again, if it's moving too slow, it's going to push on this valve. It's going to make it harder to function normally. You might also have some nerve dysfunction. You need proper nerve signaling from the vagus nerve and whatnot to make sure this valve is properly being opened and closed. So I think nerve dysfunction and motility are probably the two major things that are causing poor motility, which causes the dysfunction of ileocecal valve, which then causes SIBO. Hopefully that makes sense. You've probably heard so much about this, but that's as simple as it gets. You just need to address the root cause, which is probably motility. Now, you might need to add like an antimicrobial thing down the line if you're still experiencing some issues after fixing these root causes, but I would definitely fix these root causes first. And hopefully this makes sense. Like, this is really simple. This is really simple. And my favorite way of addressing gut motility and nerve dysfunction is probably megadosing B1s. There's some good videos out there. I think Zero Nutrition does a great video, which he explains. I can do another video if you guys want. But a megadose of B1 would be, and again, I'm not telling you to do this. I'm not a healthcare professional. I'm just saying, look into it maybe. But a lot of us are deficient in B1. And what depletes B1? What depletes B1? Well, high carb, caffeine, stress, all of the modern day stuff depletes B1. So a lot of us are deficient in B1. It doesn't usually show in blood tests either. And usually just taking a B complex with the type of B1 that it has, I think it's hydrochloride B1 or something like that. It's very not bioavailable for our body. So we need either a benfotiamine, which is a synthetic form, or a TTFD. And that can really, really help us. Why? Because it supports the nervous system. You need B1 for the neurotransmitters involved in the vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve regulates digestion and motility. Hopefully that makes sense. So I know, especially for me, when I started taking B1, my motility was already decent, but it went to like, okay, now we're on a regular path. So potentially looking into that. You don't have to do B1, but I think you're able to get that nerve dysfunction. Like, you can take things like Triphala, or I don't like Cascara Sagrada, but these kind of herbal stuff that's kind of a natural laxative. You can take that to address any constipation, but it's not going to be long term. And I still do take these things, Triphala mainly, just as like a short term relief if you need it. But I think B1 would be more of a long term approach to fix any nerve dysfunction and B1. I can go in more detail on this if you guys want. Just let me know, and maybe some kind of protocols with B1. Please be careful with B1 because you might get paradoxical reactions. Things might get worse before they get better. That's why you have to go slow with megadose of B1, very slow. And please do it responsibly. Again, I'm not a healthcare professional, but yeah. And there's studies going from nearly 100 years ago, which connects the link between SIBO and B1. So I think it's honestly very simple. Honestly, very simple. So if you looked at benfotiamol or TTFD, you might improve your motility, as I said, nervous system that can really fix, again, this nerve dysfunction between the ileocecal valve, which isn't working, which is probably because of poor motility and nerve dysfunction. And I've mentioned these inflammation and low stomach acid, but that's caused by low motility anyway. So the absolute root cause of it, I think, is the motility and nerve dysfunction, which B1 would help you a lot. I had a client of mine who's just finished their kind of course of B1, and they're like, yeah, like my SIBO is just gone. I've done so many things, antibiotics, antimicrobials, and this, again, I'm not saying that's going to guarantee work for you, but if we actually think logically, like I explained to you how the body works in such a simple way that hopefully it makes sense. And hopefully, like, you don't have to overcomplicate all these fancy words. It's just as simple as, this thing isn't working. Why isn't it working? It's just as simple as this root cause. You don't have to take loads of pharmaceuticals and antibiotics to address the symptom. We're just addressing the root cause. And then you can actually be freed from this. Hopefully that makes sense. I guess I kind of rambled on a little bit, and I don't really follow the plan that I had. I kind of just spoke out loud. I didn't really mention the motor complex, which is, again, really important for SIBO. But this video is already 11 minutes, so I'm gonna probably call it there. Again, I have lots of stuff on this thing on this map that I can talk to you guys about, and it goes a little bit deeper as well. So any topic you guys want me to go over, please let me know. If you are interested in learning a little bit more about me and how I can potentially help you, then just check the link in the bio down below. You can watch a little video, and you also can book a fruit intro call. We can see if you can fit for coaching and stuff, if that's something you're interested in. If not, then just take this and go out there, and hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Leave any comments down below. I won't answer them. But let me know what video you want next. I think that's it. I probably missed a few things out. Let's see. What did I miss? I mentioned... I kind of mentioned most of it. Again, you probably need a little bit more than just doing B1. And B1 is thiamine, right? B1 is thiamine, if you didn't get that. That's probably it. But again, make sure I'm always preaching a holistic process. So I know you've got to heal the gut lining, improve gut bacteria, and do all this stuff as well, stomach acid and motility. I think this will be a really good start for you experiencing B1. Honestly, I think this is a lost art. I've never heard about this for years. So hopefully these videos make it very simple for you guys. All right, thank you guys for tuning in. Again, my name's been Will. If you guys are not following me on Instagram, TikTok, then go do that. Or don't. I don't mind. Subscribe if you want. I don't mind. Do what you want. But that's it. Make it really simple, guys. Don't overcomplicate it. You'll be fine. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Let me know what you guys want to see next. But yeah, adios.